All right. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Meet the Cypress team. This has been a very, very anticipated event. We have a lot of people here. A lot of or I just started the call and like everybody jumped in. Super excited. Everybody's excited to meet the Cypress team. So we're going to jump right in. So obvious people are still coming in. That's okay. Where do I start? I'm just so excited, you guys. Okay, obviously I'm going to start by introducing you to my new friend Adam Murray, who's amazing. And then I think so Adam, there are a couple people that I actually want to introduce you to. They're very excited to meet you. And then I want you to, because we have more Cypress team members here than just you, right? We don't know yet who they are. So I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to introduce a couple other people to you. And I want you to introduce us to the rest of the team. And then you guys just take it away and go from there. So I don't see Shy. Did you talk to Shy, by the way? I want you to meet Shy.
I haven't yet, no.
The devil. Here he is. Okay, so I do want you to meet Tim Baldwin, who's here. Tim, can you just wave, say hello?
Hello.
Because Tim's team is actually working. I think. Am I allowed to tell him that, Tim?
Yes, that's fine.
Tim's team is working on migrating from Protractor to Cypress, which is really exciting. And so he's very excited to meet you. And then Anna Boca, she's here. But I really was very excited for you to meet Shai Resnick, I was like, I wanted you to meet Shai, but he's not here. And then Shai appeared. So Shai, do you want to just say hi? Just introduce yourself to everybody because I don't think they know you. But I want you to meet Adam Murray.
Hey, Adam, the one who doesn't answer the emails. The first sentence.
Guilty as charged. Sorry.
The first sentence. No, I'm kidding. Okay. Hello, everyone.
It's so good to see you, Shai.
You too, Bonnie. And nice to meet you, everyone. And I really, really love the Angular Nation community. So it's always a pleasure to join the meetings.
And for anyone who doesn't know, I don't know if there's anyone in the Angular community who doesn't know Shai Resnick, but you should. Shai Resnick is, as far as I'm concerned, the leading expert on Angular testing, on everything Angular testing. And he's been running high-res IO for years. And he started out teaching, Angular testing. And then he basically just kept on building his course and building it. Like every new thing that happened, he added it. So now this is like a super comprehensive course that he's been building for years. And people ask me and he did all about the Angular baby too. People ask me about teaching unit testing. And I'm like, first of all, like, I could not teach better than Shai because he's hilarious and he's got so much curriculum. So if you want to learn about unit testing, go check out Shai. But also, so then there's this new stuff because like Cypress is so easy, right? That I don't even know if you need help with it. Then I went to Shai and I'm like, am I allowed to say, I'm telling them I'm just so excited, you guys. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell them this. Am I allowed to tell them this, Shai, that what you're working on next?
Yeah.
I kind of already did, basically.
Yeah,
anyway, so this is a perfect time for Shai and Adam to meet. And then Adam, I'm just going to stop talking and let you talk because I would like you to introduce yourself first. I think great. Introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then if you would introduce the rest of your team for us.
Yeah. So hi, it's so great to be here. I've been looking forward to this for a while, ever since I started talking to Bonnie. And Shai, I am very bad at email. I'm very sorry. I'll work on that, I promise.
Okay.
But my name is Adam Murray, and I lead one of the DX teams, so developer experience teams here at Cypress. And I have two of my other coworkers on the call today, and that's Matt Hamill and Paul Joffrey. So if you'll see them in the chat list there, yeah, you can say hi to them too. And I want them to speak up as well. It's not just me here. So but I've been in engineering for about 13 years, and I've been using Cypress for the last 3 of those years, just in individual projects and stuff that I've been working on. Worked in corporate world, startup world, kind of all over the place. For agencies, for products, and I'm a product developer. That's really what I really, really enjoy. And so being part of the DX team, gives me a chance to, focus on our product, but focus on the people using our product, which is really developers. And so that's what really excites me. And when I came on board, one of the first things for our team was, we want, the Angular, this push is going to be into the Angular community, and we see the deprecation of Protractor. and we want to see how, we can come alongside the developers that have been using Protractor and maybe have never used Protractor but want to use something else now that they're hearing about this, deprecation, and help them. And so that's really what we've been trying to do, is to develop tools to do that. And one of the things that really, really excites me is, we don't know what we don't know. And some of that is we don't know what pain points there are. We don't know what needs there are out there for the testing in the Angular community. And so we're very open right now to tell us all the things, so we can develop content and we can develop tools that are useful for you in your everyday development. So that's my
so
spiel.
exciting. I think the one thing that I have heard consistently from all the people, because I talk to people all day, every day. That's what I do. And the one thing that I've heard consistently is Cypress is easier. Hands down, it's easier. It's easier. It's just nice. And people who have been writing unit testing for years, and then they go to write Cypress, and they're like, it's so much easier. So if you haven't looked at Cypress yet, that's what I want you to know about Cypress.
Can I ask that Matt and Paul also introduce themselves?
Absolutely. I hope Matt and Paul are okay with that. It's okay with us.
I'm fine with that. Hi, everybody. I'm Matt. I'm on the DX team with Adam. I live in the Nashville, Tennessee area in the States. I have been a front-end developer for the past 5 years. Also have a history doing product development, but really excited to be digging into more Angular stuff and getting to know, all of you guys and understanding what are the pain points that y'all are hitting? What are the ways how we can best serve the Angular community? As this is really a new opportunity for us to help better have, like Adam said, more tooling, more support. Sorry, my cat is also wanting to make an appearance here.
I love your cat.
This is Aria too. She is a honorary DX member on the team. So
Matt's cat's like a mascot on our team.
I can see why.
She loves to get in front of my webcam. But anyway, really glad to be here. Thank you, Bonnie, for hosting this, and thank you for inviting us.
Thank you for coming. And like all of the people, as soon as I said we're going to have Meet the Cypress team, the people love Cypress. So we are very happy to have you guys here. And actually, because we love Cypress so much, and you're on the Cypress team, so we just automatically love you as soon as you walk in the door. Hey, we're so glad you're here. And I really think that when people are trying to learn new, and it's intimidating, because you're on the Cypress team, that's intimidating. And for me, the favorite thing for me is to get you guys in here, get you to turn your cameras on so they see you're not actually scary. You have a cool cat. I don't think you're scary at all. And so just to break down that wall, because then people can come straight to you if they have little questions, and then it helps adoption. And so, yeah, I love it. I'm very happy to see you guys all meeting each other. It's fun. What about Paul? How are you, Paul?
Yeah. Hello there. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us. Yeah, I think probably not too dissimilar to what Matt and Adam both said. I've been an engineer the last number of years, been in product development, been at startups, been in the corporate world. And I can identify, Bonnie, with what you said about, first using Cypress and having that aha moment and being like, oh my God, this is amazing. And this is going to change the game. I genuinely had that moment. So I'm really excited to be on this team to share that. And I just want everyone else to feel that too, because it really is a tangible, wow, I can actually do this. It's easy. And the value is just unprecedented that we can, as developers, just, get all this test coverage in without having to, rope in a number of other sources or, learn a bunch of other things. The sort of switch that flipped with me with Cypress is just that it is easy to use, but to unpack that further, it's I didn't have to learn any new tools, right? It's all the things that I already do. And so just to get that into my workflow, and the value that you get out of that is just unprecedented. And so, yeah, I'm happy to share that with you guys and help you guys out.
I think it's great. I do think that Cypress is going to continue to grow, and I think it's going to be huge. I see a lot of developers out there now, they would love to use Cypress, but they still have all this legacy code base that they have to support. So we still need Shai Resnick for a while, and he'll just help us with our transition. But I think this is very exciting. Okay, so I'm sure, because I'm sure that I see that we have some senior developers here, so I'm sure that you guys probably have a lot of questions for the Cypress team. I think Adam and we talked about, you're just kind of, because I think there's a lot of people that I come across that haven't really played with Cypress yet. So I asked Adam just to give us like a quick hello world, like intro demo thing, I think. Not really take up too much time because I think some of you already know Cypress. So then we can just do a quick hello world and then maybe jump into questions. And hopefully this will not be the last time that we're going to see the Cypress team. We're going to do this more now that we know how great they are. So I don't want everybody to think that we're going to run out of time, but just for today. Is that okay, Adam?
Yeah, that's fine. I do have something like that. And so excuse me if you have questions about the test or like things that write them better. I'm always open to that. So if you're like, why did you do that way? Let me share my screen here. Where's the little share screen button?
I think it's at the bottom
Let's
right.
present now. There it is.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh. Okay. Just give me 1 second to get set up. Sorry, it's giving me issues.
I think Google Meet just rolled out a new update. And so if it gives you a hard time, you could refresh and come back as the legacy experience if you need to.
I want to jump in, and while you're setting up the things, and just say that I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and I really love to see people passionate about testing and dedicate their lives into making our our lives easier and more efficient. So thank you for the work.
It can be kind of hard, unit testing. I've seen a lot of people that like they care about unit testing, they want to do unit testing, but I think the more complicated your code is, the more complicated your tests are sometimes. And so I've seen a lot of people like they want to do it, but they really struggle with it. And I think the cleaner your architecture is, the easier it is to test. And then also whenever I see people struggling with unit testing, I say, you need to meet my friend Shai Resnick. And then they come back and they're like, I got this, like every time. So, all right, you want to try it again, Adam? Did you go to the legacy experience? You're muted now, my friend.
I did, yeah. Let me get it. Let me get the app set up here. I had to go back. Actually, it was a screen sharing thing. So
But yeah, Bonnie, to that point, I think what we see is kind of what you mentioned is some folks are familiar with Cypress, some folks are familiar with testing, at large, other libraries, other techniques, and some folks are just square one, just I don't know what to do, I don't know where to start. So we're doing our best to cover all bases and make sure that everyone is able to get up to speed. And what we're finding is, like I mentioned, is if you've used any other libraries, Mocha, Jest, any of those other things, you're pretty familiar with the API and how things work. So Cypress is not really much to learn outside of that. Cypress has, we have our own API, but in terms of the syntax, it's nothing that you'd be unfamiliar with. So that's been really helpful, and we're working on content as well for the folks that just are at the starting line and don't know where to begin, because that is very much a thing too. Sometimes in this industry, that's like the one scary moment, right, where you have all these options and you're just like, I don't know where to begin, what do I do? So we're going to do our best to get those folks on board as well.
Yeah, into that end, that's where we're building some of the tooling out. Like what we did recently, we took and so Breebug had a schematic out there, and the Angular community asked if we could pull that in house, and not just that exactly, obviously, but just pull our own schematic in house so that it could scaffold Cypress. And so we built that out really early on when we were first kind of getting into this, and we're looking to develop that more like that. Right now, it's pretty basic. You install the schematic, it automatically scaffolds Cypress for you, builds out an initial spec. And it's pretty simple, but eventually we have a lot of hopes for that to help people down the road, and we can get into, especially as we get into more like things like component testing and things like that. Like there's quite a bit of room. We can do a lot. So yeah, let me share my screen here. Try this again.
I would love to see a Cypress storybook collaboration.
There is, no?
Yeah, I think we do have that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been working with Storybook. I read a blog post on it the other day, but I don't know if off the top of my head, Matt, or you or Paul, either one of you aware of that?
I can't think exactly of like what we support for that, but I do know that we do have some exciting stuff coming down the pipeline with our component testing feature that was rolled out in 7.0. I don't know if many people have looked at it here. We don't have an official Angular component testing library yet, but we are hoping that the possibility does open up with the component testing library, where you might even be able to treat it like it's a storybook, right? Where storybook's main value that it gives for a lot of front-end developers is the fact that you can test these components in isolation, or not test, but you can create them in isolation. And we could really go a step further with the component testing package and give people an experience where they can test and develop components in isolation, iterate fast on them, and give the same value that Storybook provides, on top of the fact that now you can have component tests for these Angular components. So
that's amazing.
So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and if you ever want to, so we had the Storybook team just a few weeks ago, and they were just as friendly as you guys are, and they actually have a Storybook channel right next door, so you guys can have, like, you can just go out and go to the Storybook channel. If you ever want to pair program with them, they're amazing guys. They're really cool.
So here's the app that I set up. It's just the Tour of Heroes app. I went ahead and just pulled it down. It's I guess one that's really popular, and so I updated it to Angular 12, and it does have the capability to do to test within it. I installed our schematic. So if I run yarn run Cypress open, it's going to open up the Cypress test runner. Open it up in a different window.
Can everybody see that okay? Is that a good size?
Yes.
I can make it larger as well. Okay, so you'll see that I have one spec right now that I created in here, dashboard.spec. You'll see that I can also pick whichever, I've got Firefox in here. I could test in Electron. Whichever browser you have, it'll ask you here. So I want to run this spec. And fired up another one. So you see that I wanted to see that my dashboard renders the header, the routes, list of heroes in a search box, and then it should correctly autofill search results as user types. These are my tests. If I go into VS Code here and show you, let me open up. Actually, I'll just go back out to this one. It got hidden. Where is it? Oh, there it is. So when we created Cypress, or when I used a schematic to create it, it created a bunch of different folders. The ones we care about right now is integration folder, because that's where our specs are going to live. Inside that, we've got this dashboard spec. And so you see it's very familiar, probably to what you used before, right? Like, it's got describe, it's got a before each, it's got an it. And it's all very readable. Like, that's the thing about Cypress that I absolutely love, right? Is that it's super readable. It's easy to understand what the test is doing. So before each, we're going to visit this path, our route. We're going to go make sure that the path name should equal dashboard, right? Because there's a redirect that happens whenever you go to root on this application. So we're going to make sure that it equals dashboard. We're going to check that the H1 is visible, and then it contains this tour of heroes. Now, you can see that I can walk you through this whole entire test here, but I don't have to do that because the test runner does that for us. So it says we're gonna visit the route. The location path name is expected to be dashboard, and it just, you can see this walking through visually, which is great, right? So my H1, which is properly identified here, is visible, and it contains tour of heroes, and you can just walk through the whole thing. So these router links are here. There's supposed to have a link to 2. I've got my hero list here. I'm expecting that to be visible, and there to be 4 of those heroes that are in there. Again, this is just a really basic test. I mean, you do all sorts of things, but you're just kind of seeing the power here of Cypress to do what it does. So this is expecting to have a search box, and that it's visible, and it doesn't have anything in it currently. But if I go here, it's going to visit this again, and it's going to get the search box. I'm going to type the letter A. And you can see that there, right? Like, you see how it's kind of doing before and after. And then it's popping all the search results up just like it would in the browser. and I'm expecting there to be a length of 8. Again, that's just, I mean, it doesn't have to be like that. This is a very simple test. It's very basic data. So, yeah.
This is so cool. Shut up and take my money.
So you can even pin. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to say it might be worthwhile to maybe take a step back and just maybe discuss like what we're seeing, if that's useful, if it's new to folks. But yeah, I think as Adam was showing, once you pull in the schematic, it will sort of drop Angular into your project, and you'll get the Angular folder, or sorry, the Cypress folder with a few things to get you up and running. And then once you run it, what you saw, I don't know if Adam, if you can pull up the test runner. This window here, this is just a little teeny tiny Electron app that is now sort of within your application as well, and that's gonna house all the spec files that you write. So you'll come here, and this is where you kick things off. And what that will do once you run one of those specs is it will spin up a browser instance, as Adam said, based on whatever you have on your particular machine. You can choose between which browser you want to open up. And so the other window is that where you'll see the test runner on the left. Adam, if you could pop over to the browser window.
Yeah.
Right. So the test runner is on your left, and that's just going to be running through all the steps that you've written in your spec file. And on the right is your application, just sort of iframed in there on the right. So you have access to the test and the application under test in the same view, which is great. And as Adam was saying, because the application is right here, you can fully interact with it as though it's the real deal, because it is. So that is really incredible for debugging purposes and whatnot, right? Like there's not this motion of going back and forth between your text editor and a test runner and going here and fixing code and then like opening up a window. It's all just right here. And because your application is here within this browser instance, you have access to the dev tools and everything like you would if you were just running this application without Cypress. So that again, in terms of debugging, if something were to go wrong, say this test failed, you just pop open the dev tools here and get into the DOM and see inspect whatever you need to inspect. Also, the console panel is a huge win in this sense, because if you choose one of the elements or anything in the test runner, you'll get an output in the console of which element is now chosen, all the relevant details that are with it. So you really have everything really just here in one view. So I found that to be really useful. So I just wanted to give like a quick like a breakdown of just the things that we're seeing. So in case that wasn't clear.
Love it. Okay, I know you guys probably have questions, and we won't interrupt you, but they probably will have questions. So as they're talking, if you guys do have questions, I want you to start putting your hands up and let us know. Sonder has a couple questions, because we can talk. I'm like, oh, we could hang out and talk about Cypress all day. But if you guys do have questions, then we should focus on that. So Sonder had a question. Well, Adam, did you meet Sonder? Is another one of the guys that probably you need to email back, because I introduced you to Sonder and Shai, and they're probably both waiting. So Sonder, Adam is very bad at emails, but Sonder's one of the experts. Because I asked Adam when I met with him last week, I was like, Adam, do you have Angular experts? Because you're doing this Angular stuff. Do you have Angular experts to go to if you get stuck? And he was like, no. so Sonder, do you want to introduce yourself to Adam? Say hello. Sonder's one of our like leading, like Shai is the testing expert specifically, but Sonder's also just everything. He's an expert in everything.
Thank you, I think. Well, I was wondering, does the schematic also work in an NX repo where there is no Angular.json, which is like an NX repo that's not only for Angular?
Right now, this is specifically targeted to Angular. So it needs to have an Angular JSON because it's going to edit that file and add whatever commands that it needs to. It's going to replace the ngede command. I can actually pull this up really quick too if you want to look at it. But yeah, it's my understanding. I haven't tried it in an NX repo. I just started looking at the NX repos a couple of days ago. So
yeah, we had some problems with schematics and NX repos too. So
yeah, so this is our schematic. I know I've seen some other people ask questions about it. You can get out. It's on npm. So if you just type in Cypress schematic, it'll pop up there for you. We do outline what it does, how to use it. It has a bunch of options as well, so you can go through and customize it quite a bit for whatever your needs are. And one of the biggest things too, just to pop in here, and I do want to answer other questions, but we do have a migration guide. Matt was really instrumental in working on this, but it's a pretty large guide. So if you're coming from Protractor and going to Cypress, or you just want to know more about Cypress, this is a great guide to help out. I mean, it's very thorough. There's a lot of examples. And we're going to keep building out this guide with help from you and others. So, yep.
Yeah. I have no experience whatsoever using Protector, because every time I tried to use it, it crashed and burned. So I only.
That's how you really feel, Sander.
You know.
Yeah, Sander, don't hold back. Just.
I know.
That's what Protector did for me. But I'm using Cypress quite a lot nowadays, and I really like the experience. It overall works, and it's one of the most reliable testing frameworks I have come along. Like if you do the same test like 10 times, it will 10 times fail or pass, but not like do it 9 times correctly and 1 time it goes like, I don't know, and do something different, which is a good experience coming from other test frameworks.
Yeah. I'd like to hear from Tim Baldwin too. Tim, I see you in the chat, but I want you to jump into the conversation because you're actually a team lead and talk. Hi.
Hey. Okay. So yeah, just I had the same thing with Sander. We both are using NX, and instead of Angular JSON, we have workspace JSON. So I think anything we can do to look into having some flexibility and not having that requirement for Angular JSON will be helpful for a lot of other teams as well. And then
did you want to ask a question?
Yeah. All right. So my question is basically the commands. I saw you showing the commands. One of the things I noticed with Cypress, a lot of times the commands like the compare or has length and other things, they're all in quotes. I haven't worked too much with it myself. I've just watched some of my team members use it. How is the type ahead capabilities or searching for commands inside the IDE work when you have so many of the commands inside of quotes?
You're muted, Adam.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not sure that I know the answer to that, honestly. Matt or Paul?
Yeah, there might be, depending on the IDE that you're using. I know that we have a couple of different community supported plugins for Cypress. I'm not 100% familiar with any like IDE. I can't think of one off the top of my head that does like give a lot of that type of head functionality. However, I mean, we do have like a pretty lengthy laundry list of all of the assertions that we do have available, where if you do want to look up like, oh, can I check the length? Can I see how many elements are within a certain list of elements that are returned? We do have like a list of assertions that you can go through, but I can't think of something off the top of my head that has like a good type of head functionality like that.
I believe, and I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this, but I believe that Alex Rickabaugh was one of the ones, or one of the main ones, who was working on that functionality for Angular in VS Code. And another one of the people that's waiting on your email, Adam, because those are the 3 people that I emailed you. Alex Rickabaugh. So and I'm not saying that you need to obviously go out and give us that functionality right this minute, but if you ever wanted to in the future, it would be really interesting maybe for you to talk to Alex about how that worked, because to have that type of head functionality inside of VS Code, if you talk to other people who have already done it, I think it would probably be a lot easier. So that would be cool.
Yeah, it's really good that you bring that up. You know, we're working right now on some VS Code extensions and just trying to make the developer experience better specifically within VS Code. I mean, obviously there are other IDEs, but that's the one we're starting out with. So that's a really good request. Thanks.
Well, if you're not answering your emails because you're so busy working, I just want you to think about how. Just remember.
I promise I'm not vacationing.
The thing is, if you're working on those,
These are spies.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
No, you were talking. I think the lag.
Okay. If you're working on type ahead information in VS Code, I learned that providing proper typings for your stuff helps a lot. If the typings are okay, usually also the string things autocomplete.
All right. So then, hold on. So does that mean that what Tim's working on, that Tim can get his autocomplete in his type ahead if he's got the types? All right, that's very cool. Does anybody else have questions for the Cypress team? Or adoration, whatever. You can raise your hand if you want to say hello.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Shai. And then ASM is next.
Cool. So from your experience, companies with large projects, like enterprise level projects, what would you say is the sweet spot of using Cypress from what you learned from working with these companies or supporting them in terms of like the technique? Because I'm talking about thousands or hundreds of screens, let's say, okay? And writing end-to-end tests for all of those could be very very costly, sorry, and not cost-effective. So from your experience, what is the most like cost-effective way to go about it using Cypress in large-scale projects, and not broken down into micro, front ends and stuff like that, but just like monolith?
Yeah, I'll give you my answer to that. First of all, just as a lead in those kind of companies, it's been to embed Cypress as close as I can to the actual development workflow and actually have developers writing the tests themselves. I mean, I've worked for companies where, QA and testing was like its own thing, right? And all of us have kind of experienced that to a degree. And when you come back in and you're like, okay, well, I want to bolt this on, it's very, it's a really bad process. And so what I've really pushed with the VP of engineering and other roles like that is this Cypress is easy enough to install in your development workflow, so that if somebody's building out a page or they're building out something, go ahead and have it as part of the criteria for acceptance criteria, right? Like that. And that's the easy way to say it. Now, if you can't do that, I would say start out with the pieces of your application that are the most kind of most visible and that are the most out there. And I would say once you develop tests around those things, you can kind of go to the other places. But you make sure that those foundational parts of your application or foundational parts of your product are covered fully end to end.
So like smoke testing strategies and stuff like that. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Also want to add on to that. If you're trying to integrate Cypress with maybe potentially a massive monolith of an application, if for other end-to-end testing frameworks, say like Selenium, if you're trying to test a lot of complex behavior in your application, you're going to have a lot of steps that in your tests that you might end up repeating multiple times just to get to a certain spot in the UI. You have to, if you're trying to test some functionality in your big monolith where let's say you have like a Twitter clone and you're trying to test posting a tweet. Well, you have to have all of these before hooks where you're signing in, you're getting to that specific page, and then you're posting the tweet. And a lot of this setup that has to happen. But one of the powerful things that Cypress provides is since those Cypress tests are running in your browser, you can actually programmatically interface with your application so you can kind of skip some of those steps. You could programmatically maybe skip straight to being signed in. You could just have some properties, set a session, and interact with your application like that. That way you can quickly get to whatever features in your application that you're trying to test instead of doing all of this setup work of, oh, I need to do it before to sign in. I need to go to this page. I need to interact with all of these widgets just to get to where the thing is that I want to test. You could just interact with those programmatically through Cypress. Since it's running alongside your application in the browser, you could expose those types of things to Cypress. So that could also help you get up and running with a big monolith is if you just have something that's a business critical, but all of the setup work of getting to that point in the application, you could just interact with it programmatically.
Cool, thanks.
Good question.
And to that
ASM?
end too, sorry, to
Go
that
ahead.
end too, I would encourage you to check out, if you go in our Cypress repo, we have what's called Cypress Real World app. And it's a really good resource, because I mean, part of our thing is, we don't want to just, there's a lot of people out there that are like, here's our product, just throw it out there and just use it. What we wanted to do was actually build our own application, fully tested and kind of an actual like real world application. So they took and they built out it's like you create bank accounts and transactions and all this sorts of stuff, and so they tested all of that. So I'd highly recommend going into that real world app and taking a look.
Matt and Anna are like matching there. Who's quicker on the draw? This is so fun. ASM, did you have a question?
Hi, good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
I have a comment and a question, if that's okay. The comment on the autocomplete that we were talking about before, a pattern I've seen is that people use these kind of adapters between their Cypress and custom commands. So they would define a custom class, let's say called custom commands, and they call it custom commands, and they chain that to Cypress. So when you do Cypress.custom commands dot, then you would get the autocomplete list for your specific custom commands, rather than getting everything available that's going to be chained to the CY itself, and that's easier to get a list of what you want, rather than everything that's available. So I think I'm not sure if that's best practice or not, but that's something we've been doing and it's been helpful. I have a question as well, not related to the autocomplete. We have a login implementation that we show a black screen whenever with the company logo, whenever we're navigating between pages or things like that. And the logic behind it is that it will show up until the user is logged in, and then it will disappear. The problem I've come across is that when I'm using Cypress, after the tests are done, and I want to pin the previous states of each test, when I pin those tests in the Cypress dashboard, I'm still seeing the screen. And the two solutions I would think of is that one, I could preserve my local storage to keep the token that I use for login, so that that screen wouldn't show up. Or the second option would be to modify the Angular code and define an environment separately for Cypress testing, that in that environment I wouldn't use this login screen at all. I was wondering which one of these approaches do you guys think is the best practice to use in this case?
Would it be possible to, is there anything, you have a gist or anything that we could possibly take a look at, just to get a little bit better context? It's hard to give a clear answer, but my instinct would be that we wouldn't expect that you have to change your app code just for the test to be able to work. But yeah, it's a little tough to get like a perfect understanding of what you're talking about.
This is actually a perfect segue, because we can, Adam, can we launch it? Like we've been scheming for a while for y'all. We created a secret Cypress channel, and we were waiting because we wanted to debut it here for you guys. And Adam, can we do that? Can we do that? And I'm just gonna go right now and make the Cypress channel public so everybody can join. And these three amazing guys are the hosts of the Cypress channel. So I think ASM, that would be a, wait, hold on. I gotta find I'm gonna go do this. I'm making it public right now, and you guys can join the Cypress channel. And I think that would be a fabulous question, because sometimes you guys ask us questions, and just because we're experts, like, we're not that smart that we can't sometimes answer all the questions right off the top of our head. So if you give us just a little bit of something to play with, it makes it a lot easier.
in ASM, I would say even a gist or a screen, screen capture, so we can, or screen cast, so we can kind of see what's going on in the test would be good too.
You can post it in the Cypress channel. And even if you don't have a question, you should join the Cypress channel, because I think if we do, I'm hoping that we can like start doing a regular office hours with the Cypress team, because the Cypress team is so cool, and it will be in that channel. So join the channel or you won't see it. Go ahead, Matt.
I just dropped this in the chat, but I think that for your issue, it sounded like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded like that you have this extra screen that's appearing just due to the login screen. So if you're having Cypress find these, your elements to log in, your username, password, what have you, and then sign in, and then you have this issue, this other screen that it shows for a second, you might be able to use, I don't know if you're using programmatic login capabilities with Cypress, because you might be able to okay, you are?
Yeah.
So
sorry, I might have not been able to explain it properly, but we have a separate service that kind of injects HTML elements, which is basically a picture, whenever the user isn't logged in and they're trying to navigate. And because Cypress cleans the cache after each test, when the tests are done, the cache is cleaned and the service doesn't remove this anymore. So we have a logic that the service removes these DOM elements whenever we log in. And after the test is done, there's no cache anymore, there's no token anymore. So this screen, this div element, this picture stays in the DOM and blocks everything. So you wouldn't be able to, if you pin different stages of the test, you would have the screen.
I'm just posting in the chat about the brand new Cypress channel and letting everybody know.
Is it in the Angular Nation chat?
It's in the Angular Nation chat.
Gotcha.
And it's also
Thank
under
you.
channels. You're welcome.
So
I think, go ahead.
No, go. Sorry, go ahead, Bonnie.
I was just saying, I think it's at the top of the channel list. We're going to leave it. We'll put it alphabetically later, but for now, it's top of the channel list. You can find it easier.
Yeah, I don't know if this is directly applicable, but ASM, we are working on improvements to we're working on a session API that will help better, or at least more easily manage these sorts of things that you're talking about in terms of like your session and your cookies and your local storage. So that is actually something that we're actively working on, which may be something that could directly impact the issue that you're having. But yeah, I would love to learn more about it and see if we can help you get over that hump.
It's a great question. It's just not a simple question.
Yeah, sounds good. I appreciate all the answers. Thank you, guys.
No worries. Okay, so we are we have a few more minutes. Does anybody else have more questions for the Cypress team? I just want to get an idea, just because I'm curious. Will you all raise your hand if this was your first introduction? And I'm going to ask you in a minute. Raise your hand if you used it before. But I just want you to raise your hand if this was the first time you've actually seen Cypress. Okay, raise your hand if you've already used Cypress before. Okay, all right. This is cool. So a lot of people are using Cypress. Okay, so then hopefully you guys will have. So maybe we don't have a lot of Cypress questions because Cypress is so easy that it's just so easy, because the Cypress docs are pretty amazing. I would like to see. Well, so let's ask you this. So if you do have, some of you still have your hands up. Is it because you have? Okay, put your hands down. If you have questions, let us know. Otherwise, we will ask you questions, because I think. The thing that I would be curious about is what, if you have any like suggestions, or like what would you like to see if you could be in charge of the Cypress team for a minute, what would you want them to be working on? Just curiosity. Go ahead, Demalia.
Hi, everyone. I had a question regarding that since Cypress runs an Electron app and we have all the features of the browser available, but when we deploy it in a CI and there it runs, there is no browser available, would that break my test if I'm using something like local storage, let's say?
That's an excellent question.
I'll take this one. No, your test should still be working fine. If you are running, let's say for instance, if you're running Cypress in a Docker container in Circle CI or any CI provider, Cypress can run in all CI providers. We do have, I mean, you could run your tests in just an Electron browser, and it doesn't even have to be a headed environment. You can run them headlessly as well, and you should still have access to all of the browser APIs available to you.
That was a good question. Tom Eustace. Tom always has good questions.
Well, we'll see. It might be a silly question. I was just wondering, I've seen the wiki or blog post about the bad practices in Cypress. I was just wondering, is there any utility or any kind of feedback to users if they're doing things that are kind of seen as bad practices? I know that's probably hard to do, but just wondering if that's something.
What makes you guys cringe? I know there's a lot of things that people do with Angular that I'm like, oh, I wish they wouldn't do that. That's a good question. I told you had good questions, Tom.
I can comment on this one too. I think, so just to make sure I'm understanding the question, you're asking like, what are some, maybe some common mistakes that people are making, or
yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that for a lot of people, if you're very new to Cypress, if this is your first time doing an npm install for Cypress and writing an integration test, Cypress looks like it looks like it's using like a promise-like API, or a lot of people also think that we can manually interact with a lot of like return values from that. People assume that there are like return values for a lot of different Cypress commands as well. So people will like set variables and they'll say, oh, like I want to reference this one element here. So I'll say var my element equals sci.get to get a login form or something. And then they'll expect to be able to reference that later in the tests. But Cypress is, the API looks like you could do that, but you actually can't. It's enqueuing things enqueuing your commands serially, so it's going to always process them in order. But a lot of people think that you could just set things as variables or set maybe like await commands, but you can't actually type an await keyword. And also people think that you could .then, and they think, oh, that's got to be a promise. That's a promise thing. Well, it's promise-like. So you have to. There are a couple of gotchas like that where people think that it's like other testing frameworks where you can just await things, but you really can't. But that doesn't limit you at all. That's actually to protect you, because that way it keeps things deterministic. So we do have like a page on like common errors, best practices. Really, the best way is just to always look back to that. And the community is great. The community has created so much content around a lot of common pitfalls that usually it's pretty easy to find like your certain situation with a couple of quick Google searches. It's a great question, though. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Thanks. Cheers.
Yeah, I would
This is
piggyback
so
on that too, to say just to note that the Cypress docs, I could say like anecdotally, before I joined the Cypress team, when I was using Cypress, the docs are just fantastic. There's just so much great stuff in there. Great, video content that's linked out if that's your preferred method of learning. So and our team is actually responsible for the most part for the docs. So we're always going to try to surface as much helpful information as we can. And to sort of answer your question about are there guides that will sort of like let you know if you're heading into the danger zone, we don't have anything like that yet, but that may be something we could look into folding into if we get some sort of like a VS Code extension or something like that. That's actually could be a good use case for something like that. So definitely gonna take note on that for sure.
I love this because I had a meeting with Adam a week or two ago, and I was very excited. And I was like telling people, y'all are going to love this guy. He's so cool. I didn't even know about Matt and Paul yet. Like, I was already excited when I met Adam, and now Matt and Paul are like, this is so cool.
We're like gremlins. We just multiply. You don't even know.
Right? Yeah, you guys are so great. Like, I hope you never leave now that we know you, because I just feel like this is just the beginning. Like, our call is almost over, and now like we're really starting to like open up and get more questions. And so it's just the beginning, you guys. So ASM, do you want to come off mute? You had another question as well that I thought was pretty good. And Malia's just getting started too.
So they were talking about promises, and something I've noticed is that, as far as I know, we can't use cy.log inside promises, because I think cy.log is a promise itself, or I don't remember the reason, but I use a debugger to kind of mitigate that. I was wondering, if that's an issue, and if it's going to be if there's going to be support added for that.
I have seen an issue just the other day of someone talking about the similar issue of not being able to use cy.log inside of another asynchronous looking command. I think they were trying to use like a dot within, and then they were trying to use a cy.log within that, and it wasn't working. So we are aware of it. I'm not exactly sure where that falls within the test runner team's priorities, but I either saw an issue on it or I saw somebody else talking about it. And I'm familiar with it, not necessarily that's going to make much, if any, of a difference, but I do think that we are aware of that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Damali was asking about Safari integration. Do you guys have any plans for that in the future? You working on that?
I don't honestly know where that stands. I have to look into it.
You got to be careful, because now that we know you and we feel so comfortable with you, we'll be really demanding. Hey, can we have this? Oh, can we have this? Can we have this?
No, listen, I was one of the people that, like, years ago, because I worked in the healthcare industry here in the United States, and everything we had to build was an IE11, right? So like I was also one of the people at one time that was like, hey, Cypress, when are you getting IE11 support? So I understand the plight.
Yeah.
Okay.
To my understanding, to unpack that a little bit, I know the other browser vendors, with Cypress, some of the certain APIs that Cypress needs to hook into are not exposed in the same way. So it's ground that can be covered, and I think is on our product roadmap. It just is always, always managing the priority of what we can get to and what's going to be the most valuable. So it is something that we're aware of. It is something that we have put some effort towards. Agree with Adam. I'm not exactly sure where that is, but it is something that exists. And we do hope to get there, but yeah, we'll see where that lands on the roadmap.
Love it. I see. I'm going to go with. I'm going to skip to Peter Sherwood because I want Sonder, and then I want Shai to follow up with the very last question, and then I just want to have a few minutes at the very end for Adam and Matt and Paul to give us some final closing thoughts, if that's okay. So, well, I can't because Sonder already has hands up. Peter first. Sorry. So Sonder, go ahead, and then Peter, and then we'll go to Shai, and then final thoughts from Adam, if that's okay.
I have to unmute first. My question is about organizing your tests. I have a couple of tests that are like one context, and there is a boatload of small tests that need to run in order, but those files are getting large. Is there a way to split those things out while still keeping the order? And what are the best practices around this? So what are the best practices around organizing your tests that are a little bit bigger and depend on order?
Yeah, I was just looking through. I was gonna drop a couple links in from our docs. I don't know if you guys have anything to add. I think we have particularly stuff about this. I was actually looking for the last question as well about in the chat about the seeding the database. The docs are super useful. I think we have most of this information handy. I'm gonna drop a couple links in unless Matt and Adam, you have anything else to add.
Yeah, that's why I kind of wanted to let Shai and Sonder go last, because they will ask you the hardest questions. because there's not a whole lot about Cypress that they don't already know. So you know when you get to their questions, like you really, yeah. Okay, so I see. Okay, Peter Sherwood, do you? I don't know if you have a question that's as complicated as theirs, but let's hear it.
Possibly. One was just to second the comment about Safari, because what we're probably going to have to do is write a bunch of select tests where we know Safari is vastly different in Test Cafe. Why we chose that language is because it's supported in the online tool that we use. So yeah, we'd be really interested in getting Safari supported at some point. My other question was about login tokens. What would be really helpful, and it was touched on previously, was that if we could somehow decorate each test with a login token, that you could go to your login server, get the token, and then inject that somehow into each test. Is that possible? I was struggling to see the answer for that, or if there was an answer the other day. So what the login server would do is you'd pass in the credentials that would give some sort of bearer token, and then you'd field that into all the tests as a configuration, say, pseudo configuration.
This is an excellent question. I think that so because you guys started coming with the really good questions right as we're at the end, and also I asked the Cypress team to prepare a super simple hello world for us today. So I think this might be a good place to kind of put a pin in it and come back. I think these are such good discussions that we're having. Did you want to respond, Adam?
Well, I'll say to that too, Peter. One thing we're working on, or another team is actually working on within our DX squad, is a session API documentation, and so that should be coming out very soon. And I think it might help with that.
Yeah, sounds very much like it could. Yes. Okay. I'll keep an eye out on the release notes and whatnot. Thank you.
So cool. This was so fun. These questions were amazing. Thank you so much to the Cypress team. I really hope that we see more of you guys because y'all are amazing. Do you want to give us any final closing thoughts? Well, I'm going to put you on the spot in front of everybody. Can we have a monthly office hours, like once a month? Can we do this once a month?
I'm good with it. I think it'd be great. Yes. And I just want to say thank you so much for all the questions. And I hope we can get many of them answered in the chat and in the channel. So thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming.
I also want to add onto that. I would love to do something like this and chat with you guys and figure out what pain points y'all are experiencing and just answering questions as best that we can. One thing that I do want to say, we do also have a Discord server. I don't know if anyone in here is using Discord, but we do have a Discord server. I'm going to drop it in the chat. I dropped it earlier, but just so you don't have to scroll back up and find it, I'll give you guys a new link. We do have people from the other teams, from the component testing team, the test runner team, other DX folks are also hanging out in there. And we have some people that they're lurking at, honestly, a lot of hours of the day. So if you have any specific questions about how do I do this in Cypress, or I'm having issues, anything like that, or if you just want to say hi, you can drop in and send a message, and we'd be glad to chat with you guys there. So I'll drop that link in the chat.
That's awesome. So Discord is really cool for like going, like if you have an immediate question, you want to just go ask a quick question. And then Angular Nation, maybe for like a more in-depth question where you want to post something and kind of start a thread, I think is really helpful. And then we will have, hopefully we'll set it up every month. We'll have an office hours for the Cypress team and we can get to know them. And also, just if you guys ever want to just hang out with us because y'all are really cool, you could do more. You could do every week if you want. But we also have a Friday social where a bunch of us just hang out on Fridays. And we would love to see you in the Friday social if you ever want to just join us and hang out and nerd out. What is this about smoke test, Shy? Shy has a free workshop.
Shameless plug. Shameless plug. Shameless plug.
I just want to tell you one more thing. About Shy, and Shy's not even paying me to say this, but I just want to tell you this because the coolest thing, I can't even say the coolest. The coolest thing is he's freaking hilarious and he's a really genuinely amazing person. But did you know, remember I said that he started this testing thing and then he just kept on adding to it over the years, but he never raised the price. He just kept putting more and more and more. So it's like really an amazing price. And this now free. Yeah, you can plug your stuff here anytime, Shy.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for the team, and hopefully we'll see you again sooner rather than later. And that what I find about cool about Cypress is compared to other solutions like the older Protector and stuff like that is where in large scale applications like we discussed before about smoke test is the sweet spot, is the kind of test that test only the most useful functionality, only the happy path, and you only write few of those. So I have like follow-up questions regarding this because I am on a mission to find the most cost-effective way to write tests and how to use the combination of tools in order to maximize the effectiveness. So I find smoke testing as a very good tool for doing that. And I would love next time to hear you guys what you think about other strategies, because there are downsides to just go to the end-to-end all the way for large-scale application because it's much slower and you don't always cover all the paths. You get false sense of confidence and stuff like that. So I prepared, like I launched last week a new workshop, a free one, covering all sorts of topics and mistakes you don't want to do in your Angular test. And I also covered this topic, smoke testing. So if you wanted to see it.
And he's hilarious.
I will pay you. I will pay you with Bitcoin. Take my Bitcoin.
By the way, and I know we're over time and you guys have to get back to work, but I just want to say you don't have to wait a month. If you guys wanted to put another, because you guys are hosts in that Cypress channel, you can put a thing up next week. You can do anytime you want. Yeah. Thank you so much, Cypress team. You guys are great.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Our pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
All right, everybody. We're out of time. That's it. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks to everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.